My name is Carmel Schreiber, and I am a member of the Illinois Holocaust Museum's Teen Leadership Board. I signed up to be on the Teen Leadership Board to make an impact because I believe the museum's mission to combat hatred, prejudice, and indifference. I am here today because I want to honor and commemorate those who were lost in Holocaust, genocide, and other mass atrocities for Genocide Awareness and Prevention Month. I now introduce Wendy Singer, Director of Education.
Thank you, Carmel. Hello, everybody. I'm Wendy Singer. On behalf of our CEO, Susan Abrams, and Vice President of Education and Exhibitions and TWR Advisory Board member, Kelly Zaney, and our Board of Directors, I'm honored to be introducing this hour of an unprecedented 24-hour global vigil to conclude Genocide Awareness Month and unite the fight against hate worldwide. Today's program will open with spoken word poetry by New Age poet and Renaissance man, Harold Green. We will then share our hour with our incredible local Chicagoland partners, Asia Minor and Pontos Hellenic Research Center, Bosnian American Genocide Institute and Education Center, and the Chicago Armenian community. A few weeks ago, the Illinois Holocaust Museum celebrated its 11th anniversary, built from the ground up by local survivors of the Holocaust. Since our start, partnerships have been a part of our DNA. We are honored to be partners with Together Remember and the Coalition and are proud of this very, very special and meaningful partnership. We were so disappointed when our in-person Together We Remember Vigil was postponed on April 5th to be led by our teen board due to COVID-19. We immediately proposed to the Together We Remember Coalition that perhaps through this challenge we could find an opportunity. Could this be an opportunity for like-minded organizations from around the world to come together and unite for a worldwide vigil? Well, guess what? The rest is history. Look what you've done. Together we remember, and we're all here together. In our closing film at the museum, Holocaust survivor Leo Malamed said, "How do we take this knowledge and turn it into action? A single individual seemingly is powerless in the face of these kinds of atrocities. The key, of course, is a multitude of one persons. This is a huge force with a very big voice." Today, we are inspired, all of us here together, of what's happening and people coming together. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Harold Green. Harold is a New Age poet and Renaissance man. He's also featured in the opening film of our permanent exhibit in the Take a Stand Center exhibit, and thus a true celebrity. Primarily a poet, Harold Green is an ever-evolving artist with a skill set that defies categorization. His vibrant storytelling and passionate lyrical delivery continue to captivate audiences both domestically and internationally. With repeat sellout shows at some of Chicago's largest and most popular music venues, Green is not only a highly sought-after talent, but an equally respected bandleader and producer. He's a proud son, brother, father, husband, coach, teacher, and mentor. He's a visionary leader, motivator, and an overwhelmingly undeniable human being. Welcome to you, Harold Green.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Wendy. I will be reading a piece entitled Letter from a Chicago Jail, which is an excerpt from my new production called King and Continuum. Complacency will be the death of you, being okay with okay. Mediocrity can get the best of us and the rest of us. Until we all awaken, there could be no rest for us. The house still dirty, we just cleaned up the vestibule. My people was promised 40 acres, we just settled for a mule the day the donkey got beat by the elephant in the room. Giants built pyramids and plantations too. So much beauty from the minds of the oppressed. and beaten, but never be broken, never be token, be the jackpot, be gold, and never be confused by cynics. Optimism is not wishing and hoping, it's knowing and going, it's seeing and showing, it's believing and being, it's knowing that you was promised greater and going to get it. It's seeing a brighter future in darker times and showing the blind is believing that dreams are divine conversations and being the personification of those divine conversations. Optimism ain't just frills and fluffs. It's knowing that the yellow brick road is behind the lion's den, through the forest of attack dogs, over the mountain of supremacy, through the valley of death, under the mountain of naysayers, and still lacing up your boots and saying, follow me. It's meeting the Wizard of Oz and telling him, you are not my God, while questioning the tact of his alternative facts. Is standing on the shoulders of ancestors just to get a better view of heaven. Optimism is a verb. It's an action, a real life application of dreaming. It's seeing your way out of the unforeseeable. It's faith's call to action. It's a Black boy from Chicago who rode his way out without giving in, who saw the beauty of his city and his people and wouldn't shut up about it. You are looking at a lucid dreamer. I've decided to control my narrative, to be proud of my heritage while never undermining another's, but never succumbing to mediocrity. Not as long as there's Black boys like me who've never seen an optometrist, so the optimism is a little bit blurry. Too much gunpowder packed up in the corner of their retinas, too many corners, too much survivor's guilt, so sleep cometh in the morning or never. Nightmares run rampant when your vision is as bleak as the sources that you're surrounded by. And imagine that these are the type of people that you're surrounded by on a daily basis. You want to be a light, but you're an isolated oasis, eventually smothered by the swamp of struggle. Your image has been inverted. This becomes no city for the introverted, so speak now or forever lose your peace. The epidemic of the pessimistic, how contagious is it? Are you willing to be a warrior or a witness? What sense is there is waiting on the right time when time has never waited on you? Life will happen with or without you. You might as well have a say in it. A dream is a beacon of light. Dreamers are light towers, and this world is made up of oceans. It's hard to navigate these waters in the dark. Some folk can swim their way through the waters. Others just waiting in the waters for you to shine your light so they can wade in the water. This is the life of Pi. Dreamers have to illuminate the night so we can believe in a new day. So be an ultra light being.
Thank you so much, Harold, for that beautiful piece of spoken word. Tell us and tell the Facebook world, where did this piece come from and why did you choose to read it today?
So this piece is inspired by King's letter from a Birmingham jail. And for all of us that are just even casually aware of the circumstances in which King was in during that particular time, they were a little frustrating at the time. He was trying to make a lot of progress in Birmingham because it was a hotbed for racial inequality at the time, and things just kind of weren't moving the way he wanted it to move. And, King not only was a strong activist, but he was a strong strategist as well. And him and his constituents figured that on that Good Friday, they would, cause a scene, they would protest, rightfully so, civil disobedience, and they got locked up. And he ends up getting thrown into this prison, and it's, of course, just terrible conditions. And he's in this very dark place, literally and figuratively. And one morning, the guard gives him a newspaper, sneaks him a newspaper. And in that newspaper, 8 white clergymen from Alabama are speaking down on King's actions. And that's where it gets very interesting to me, because in that moment, King thinks that of all people on the opposite side of the fence, that he would think that his fellow clergymen would at least be supportive, but they're trying to tell him, wait on the right time. There needs to be a right time. And there's never a right time for justice. Justice is always, you know what I'm saying? You can never wait for justice. Justice has to happen now. And when injustice is happening, it is not a right time to wait. And his fire came from reading those words and realizing that there were still people out there who didn't understand that there was no time to wait. There was no time to be patient. So with that fire, he got out of his wall of confusion in that dark place, and he sat there and wrote longhand this very fiery message, letting them know that we have no time to wait. You have the privilege of sitting there, you know, and watching the world go by and watching these atrocities go by and all this time go by, that you don't have to feel inflicted. Maybe you feel morally inflicted through some of these stories or some of these things that you see, but when you are the person actually going through these things, there's no time to wait. And that's on large and small scales, micro and macro. And when we're talking about genocides and we're talking about injustices globally and domestically, we have to think in that particular mindset. There is no right time to speak up. You know, there is no time. We cannot wait. Whether we're talking about the Holocaust, we're talking about slavery, we're talking about things that's going on over in Africa, or you're any place in the world. That's how King thought. You know, injustice anywhere is an injustice to me as well. He took it personally. You know, so I think what made it so fascinating to me is that when we think about, you know, in the piece, when I'm talking about dreamers are lights and dreamers are light towers and things of that nature, when we think about people who are set out to do good or upstanders, as the museum likes to call them, we tend to think about those people as sometimes passive. Positive people always kind of get put off as passive. And I think King wanted people to know, don't mistake this nonviolence for me being passive and me being soft. Nothing about this is soft. This takes a lot of bravery. I wake up to, you know, death threats on my life all the time, but I still step one foot in front of the other and do this work. And I think that's such an empowering thought when we're thinking about doing the work and being an upstander and speaking out. We cannot wait on the right time. We cannot be passive. We have to be aggressive in our nature of making sure that we're bringing light to these dark places.
Harold, thank you so much. You have such a gift and your words are so powerful. And I just have to share that I started at the museum about a year ago. And a year before that, I went to the Take a Stand Center and I saw the incredible work the museum was doing. And your video rang in my head and I saw it. And I was so moved. It was so powerful. I said, one day, after watching your video, one day I'm going to work there. And guess what? It happened. So I had to share that story. We have a big hour. We have a big hour, so we're going to move on. Thank you for all you do for humanity, Harold.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Harold and Wendy. I am Leah Gray, a member of Illinois Holocaust Museum's Teen Leadership Board. I'll be introducing our fantastic partners this afternoon. Next up, we will hear from our partners at the Asia Minor and Pontos Hellenic Research Center.
The Greeks of Asia Minor, a people who invented philosophy and the world's first scientific thought, who built lofty temples, who gave the world the epic poems of Homer and the histories of Herodotus, who traveled and traded from North Africa to the West, to the eastern steppes of Asia, a people who created an empire that lasted over 1,000 years, with a civilization unmatched by any of its contemporaries, a people who, although conquered and mistreated, survived, and in some cases even thrived under alien rule. What took 2.5 millennia to build took only 10 years to destroy.
Essentially, they did not want these people to exist in their traditional home. It was part of a Turkification policy, and yes, it met the full definition of what the United Nations has said in 1948 is genocide.
November 16, 1921, after leaving Samsun on my return trip to Harput, I passed the old man of Samsun. Greeks were being deported. Many of these men were feeble with age, but in spite of that, they were being pressed forward at a rate of 30 miles a day, and there was no transport available for those who were weak and ill. I passed many corpses of Greeks lying by the roadside where they had died from exposure. Many of these were the corpses of women and girls with their faces toward the sky, covered with flies. Stanley Hopkins, Near East Relief.
What happened when the Turks came, when the soldiers came to take you away? What happened?
We just get out of the house and walk. You leave everything behind and you take a walk. The other house, and take them out, all of them. And took us, we walked. All the, about 8, 9, 10 months we walked. We walked long way. And there were children that were cold and they died on the way down, you know. And I could remember one boy, he died like this because he didn't had, at night when they get up, that's what they saw him. And then I went there and I saw him just like that. He died. And other families, you know. The road was marching out for 8, 9, 10 months is a long way, honey, long way.
I personally, this is my first and foremost important duty, to force my own government to face the history, to acknowledge historic wrongdoings.
It's part of universal human rights. And as anyone's rights are trampled, so are all people's rights trampled.
The Hellenistic population of Asia Minor was virtually non-existent any longer.
Coming to terms with what happened would allow both Turkey and Greece to move on.
Don't let the memory of what happened to these Greeks of Asia Minor be forgotten. Join in keeping their memory and story alive, and help fight against those who say that this never happened.
That night, my little sister died. It was heartbroken. Nastasia, that died that night. She died of hunger. And I loved that girl. I loved her. And she wanted to sleep with me. She came and slept with me. And I had to get up for something. And that night she died.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anastasia Spiritus, and I am a board member of the Pontian Federation of USA and Canada, the president of the Pontian Greek Society in Chicago, and a member of the Asia Minor and Pondos Hellenic Center, also located here in Chicago. I want to thank the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center for including us. We are honored to join all of you in raising our collective voices against genocide. We recall its horrifying legacy, but vow to stand shoulder to shoulder to prevent it from happening again. The Asia Minor and Pondos Hellenic Research Center's mission, and all of our organizations that I mentioned, is to educate the public regarding the destructive events of 1913 through 1923 that led to the annihilation of the Greek communities. In Asia Minor, Pondos, which is the Black Sea region of Anatolia, and of Eastern Thrace. Shortly before World War I began, approximately 2 million ethnic Greeks lived in the Ottoman Empire, but due to the Ottoman and nationalist government's systematic policies culminated in genocide, as many as 1 million Greeks were murdered and the rest forced into exile. Today, about 5,000 ethnic Greeks remain in Turkey. At the time of the genocide, it did not go unnoticed. In fact, many diplomats, missionaries, journalists, and relief workers reported the atrocities. On January 31st, 1917, the German Chancellor Hollweg, even though an ally to the Ottoman government, reported, the indications are the Turks plan to eliminate the Greek element as enemies of the state, as they did earlier with the Armenians. The strategy implemented by the Turks is of displacing people to the interior without taking any measure for their survival by exposing them to death, hunger, and illness. The abandoned homes are then looted and burned or destroyed. Whatever was done to the Armenians is being repeated with the Greeks. Even so, successive governments of Turkey have continued to deny, as they have with the Armenian and the Assyrian atrocities, that genocide had taken place. This, we, all of us, cannot allow. As descendants of genocide victims, we honor those institutions like the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center, and individuals, scholars, educators, journalists, artists, documentarians, volunteers, and laymen who work to preserve and proclaim, sometimes at the risk of their own lives, the unconscionable genocide perpetuated against the Greeks of Asia Minor. In the name of all the victims of genocide, let us work to shine light on these injustices and to see that truly they will never happen again. Thank you so much for including us.
Thank you to Asia Minor and Pontos Hellenic Research Center. We now introduce the Bosnian American Genocide Institute and Education Center.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are here on behalf of the Bosnian American Genocide Institute and Education Center. We are grateful to be here today to take part in this unique event. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Serbian ultranationalist politicians seeking a greater Serbia led Slovenia, Croatia, and Bosnia to declare independence. Following Bosnia's recognition by the European community, Serbian and Bosnian Serb forces launched genocidal acts in retaliation, specifically targeting Bosnian Muslims. This was done through mass murders, the systematic removal of people from their homes, the inhumane treatment and torture of numerous individuals, particularly those held in concentration camps, and systematic rape implemented as a wartime tool against women and girls. This resulted in over 100,000 deaths, between 20,000 to 60,000 estimated cases of sexual assault, and the ethnic expulsion of primarily Bosnian Muslims from Bosnia. We will focus our attention today to the northwest region of Bosnia and its victims who were murdered near the Koričani Cliffs on August 21st, 1992. 200 Muslim and Catholic Bosnian men were murdered by Bosnian Serb forces as they were being deported from the Tronopolje concentration camp in the Prijedor municipality. We will be reading the names of the 86 victims whose remains were found and identified within the last 3 years. Today, together, we remember their lives by saying their names out loud.
Nejad Zulic, 22 years old. Mesud Zulic, 26 years old. Yusuf Balic, 41 years old. Razin Berisha, 28 years old. Hamdia Cholic, 31 years old. Idris Murat Chehajic, 34 years old. Mirsad Zulic, 31 years old. Suad Zulic, 27 years old. Sheri Bayric, 51 years old. Zafir Bayric, 21 years old. Fahrudin Mujkanovic, 29 years old. Merzuk Sivac, 31 years old. Omer Shlivar, 29 years old. Mesud Sikiric, 26 years old. Rasim Hodzic, 37 years old. Senad Mujkanovic, 21 years old. Mustafa Grabic, 23 years old. Veysel Grabic, 21 years old. Becir Bešić, 61 years old. Ahmet Jezerkic, 41 years old. Dursum Kahrimanovic, 34 years old. Nihad Bešić, 21 years old. Senad Kešić, 28 years old. Ahmet Blažević, 30 years old. Samir Garibovic, 19 years old.
Rasim Bašić, 51 years old. Ale Mehmedagić, 41 years old. Armin Jakupović, 25 years old. Dedo Jakupović, 42 years old. Ziad Tranjanin, 46 years old. Nihad Bešić, 26 years old. Almir Kahrimanović, 29 years old. Himzo Mrkalj, 50 years old. Nejad Salihović, 22 years old. Alija Kapetanović, 22 years old. Edin Ališić, 26 years old. Suad Turkanović, 32 years old. Nejad Sivac, 21 years old. Edin Sivac, 26 years old. Kasim Sivac, 24 years old. Muharrem Krivdić, 21 years old. Almir Fazlić, 32 years old. Fadil Mujkanovic, 52 years old. Najib Beshic, 38 years old. Mesud Pervanic, 36 years old. Uzair Crnic, 55 years old. Ziad Tajic, 39 years old. Mesud Hegic, 37 years old. Mirsad Vehabovic, 26 years old. Mustafa Pervanic, 50 years old.
Sabahuddin Kuburash, 21 years old. Fahruddin Elizovic, 45 years old. Hayruddin Elizovic, 45 years old. Yasmin Elizovic, 21 years old. Emir Elizovic, 22 years old. Edin Elizovic, 24 years old. Shefik Medic, 43 years old. Samir Muranovic, 24 years old. Zuhdia Garibovic, 26 years old. Alia Chayvan, 42 years old. Ziad Chayvan, 25 years old. Ibrahim Mahmoulin, 29 years old. Shefik Garibovic, 35 years old. Harun Hrnic, 25 years old. Hussein Kulashic, 22 years old. Edin Muretchehaic, 21 years old. Zuhdia Kadiric, 33 years old. Fehret Yaskic, 32 years old. Abbas Kulashic, 42 years old. Nihad Krivdic, 39 years old. Emir Jonlagic, 19 years old. Meho Kljajic, 38 years old. Suad Kljajic, 19 years old. Ibrahim Jakupovic, 38 years old. Refik Oruc, 22 years old.
Mirsad Gutic, 24 years old. Rasim Avdic, 53 years old. Zilhad Besic, 51 years old. Sherif Blazevic, 45 years old. Ekrem Softic, 29 years old. Jamal Blazevic, 22 years old. Hassan Cholic, 21 years old. Zevir Karadic, 47 years old. Isak Karadic, 33 years old. Omer Slivar, 32 years old. Elvir Blazevic, 20 years old. As we remember the victims of the Korichani Cliffs massacre, we hope to raise awareness about the scope of the atrocities that were committed during the genocide against Bosnian Muslims and other non-Serbs, from Prijedor in the northwest to Srebrenica and Visegrad in the east, and in cities and towns that were besieged across the country, including Bihać, Gorazda, Sarajevo, and Tuzla. Today, while survivors are prohibited from installing a memorial to the victims at the site of the former Ternopilje concentration camp, a memorial to the Bosnian Serb perpetrators has been erected. So as we read the names and as we remember, we resist historical revisionism and genocide denial in Republika Srpska. Together we remember.
Thank you, Bosnian American Genocide Institute and Education Center. We now welcome Greg Bedian on behalf of the Armenian National Committee of Illinois.
Thank you, Leah. We'd next like to introduce our brief video presentation that we have to mark the 105th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide that was marked on April 24th of this year.
Turks had a mission to erase the Armenian nation altogether.
Today, we are still here.
We failed. We lived.
We lived far from our fatherland, but we lived with our language.
We lived with our dances and songs.
We lived with our schools and churches.
Everywhere we lived Armenian.
We survived and thrived.
We became teachers, musicians, actors, inventors, doctors, world leaders, chess grandmasters.
When we marched proudly, waving our holy flag.
When we danced, we moved mountains.
When we sang, the world heard us.
We lived far from our fatherland, but our fatherland lived in us.
Խոսենք հայերեն.
Հրենք հայերեն.
Կարդանք հայերեն.
Երգենք հայերեն.
Բարենք հայկական բարեր.
My great-grandmother's brother, Sarkis Semerjan, was a survivor twice over. He fled his village with his family during the Hamidian massacres and came to settle in Kharbet. When the rest of the family fled just before the Armenian Genocide, he stayed behind to finish dental school. When the genocide began, he and other Armenian doctors were forced into the Turkish army to treat the same soldiers who were murdering their friends and family. He only narrowly escaped before they made the Armenian soldiers dig their own graves before they were killed.
Arusiag Boyajan is our great-grandmother.
During the genocide, Arusiag, her two siblings, and her mother were forced out of their house.
Her sister was taken and killed.
They had one blanket to live off of, and her brother Hagop was lost.
Arusiag and her mother had to flee, and they made it to Iraq.
18 years after the genocide, Arusiag and her mother found Hagop's name on a genocide survivor orphan list in Syria.
They were reunited. They had to move on with their lives without their older sister and father.
In 1915, when the genocide started, my great-grandfather and his family lived in Bursa, Turkey, and they owned a silk farm factory. And basically one day the Ottoman army came in and took over the factory, took over the business, and they were relocated.
So the way our great-grandfather was able to survive the genocide was because he was a musician and he knew how to play the trumpet. So he actually joined the German army as a musician and then joined the Russian army after that, and then finally relocated to Iran.
This is the story of how my great-grandfather survived the genocide. Nushan Tasjan was born in Marash, Turkey in 1910. In 1917, his father went to work and never returned, so his family knew that the Turks killed him. He headed to Aleppo with his mother and his siblings, with the rest of the Armenians in his village. While traveling, he got lost and was separated from his family. He ends up in an orphanage in Beirut, which he later escapes because he heard that his family is in Damascus, Syria. He reunites with his family and moves to Beirut. He grows up to marry an Armenian woman and has 6 daughters, including my grandmother. He died in 1983.
Ես պիտի պատմեմ հորս մեծ մայրին բամությունը, Եղիսաբեթ Եղիազարյան, որ 10 տարեկան էր, երբ չարթերը սկսան։ Թուրքերը շոկեգարքով Կիլիկիա դարին իր ընտանիքը եւ հոնդեղեն քալեցուցին իրենց մինչեւ Դերզոր։ Այդ ճամփորդության ընթացքին իր մայրը մահացավ։ Երբ Դերզոր հասան, բաժնվեցավ իր մնացած ընտանիքեն եւ արևանքվեցավ Օդար ընտանիքի կողմը։ Պետք է աշխատեր այդ ընտանիքին համար իբր ծառա։ Ամիսներ վերջ, որ հավաքի նախաձեռնությամբ փոխադրվեցավ պոլիս եւ Գաբրիել հայկական որբանոցի մեջ մինչեւ 16 տարեկան դարձավ։ Այդ դարիգանին պետք է ցկեր որփանոցը եւ գարկադրեցին, որ Ամերիկա կա եւ ամուսնանա հայ երիտասարդի հետ։ Այդ հայ երիտասարդը իմ հոր մեծ հայրն էր Ասադուր Պետյան, բսակվեցան Նյու Յորքի Քրիքոր լուսավորիչ եկեղեցվո մեջ եւ տեղափոխվեցան Granite City, ուր իմ մեծ հայրը ծնա։
Hi, I'm Sevana Papazian.
Hi, I'm Sisa Papazian.
And this is our genocide story.
Our great-great-grandmother, Mari Torian, was abandoned by her in-laws in the desert at the age of 14 with just her and her baby.
She had to walk from Kharpet, Hayastan, where she was born, all the way to Surya.
While she was walking, her baby died from starvation and she had to bury her baby with her own hands.
Along the way, she got kidnapped by Kurds and almost got raped.
She luckily escaped and found her way to Syria, and she found a new husband and she got married and started her new family.
And that's our genocide story.
This is the genocide story of my Med's mama's baba and mama, so my great-grandparents. My Med's mama's mom was from Kharpet. Her name was Shani Kabaklian, and she was taken on the march, the death march, one of them, at 6 years old, and her parents ultimately died on that march. And she, as an orphan, was taken to an orphanage in Beirut, a Catholic orphanage. And my great-grandfather was from Marash, Hagop Kabaklian, and he had his parents killed as well in a march, and he ended up in that same Catholic orphanage. But he also had a sister who was still alive, but they were separated once this happened. And his sister's name was Mary Lou, and she was taken by Protestant missionaries, whereas he was taken by Catholic missionaries. And they ultimately met up 50 years later through some ties and were able to reunite together.
2020 marks the 105th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide and 105 years of Turkey's campaign of genocide denial. Each year, the Armenian community of Chicago gathers here, before this monument, to honor the memory and the sacrifice of our 1.5 million martyrs. Each year, we are led by a procession of our clergy and our community leadership out of the church and down the steps to this sacred place to surround this monument. Each year, an honor guard of Homenetmen Scouts and Armenian Youth Federation members respectfully place wreaths at each side of the monument on behalf of our entire Chicago Armenian community. Like the rest of us, each year, this monument hears the messages offered by our congressmen and other dignitaries who stand before it, joining us to lend their support to our community and for our sacred cause. It hears the compelling calls of our activists, urging us to redouble our efforts. And it hears the inspiring words of our youth, who have taken up the torch passed down to them from our genocide survivors to lead the way along the path for justice for the Armenian nation. Like so many other Armenian genocide memorials in cities around the world, this year our monument stands alone, like a sentinel, as we shelter in place due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This year, its solitude is a stark reminder of the emptiness of Western Armenia, devoid of its rightful owners, the Armenian people. It bears silent witness to our collective loss, both then and now. Like the citadels of Van and Kars, this monument is made of stone. And like the scattered stones of the monastery of Surpgarabed in Mush, this monument beckons us to return, both to regather here in our community center after the virus has subsided, and more importantly, to regather in Western Armenia, to rebuild our nation on our native lands once justice is done.
Justice for the Armenian Genocide.
Արդարություն հայոց ցեղասպանության համար. Ретвиса for Armenian скафоркморет.
Δικαίωση για τη γενοκτονία των Αρμενίων.
Rechtvaardigheid voor de Armeense genocide.
Justice pour le génocide des Arméniens. צדק לרצח העם הארמני.
Justicia por el genocidio armenio.
Pravosudие armянского геноцида.
Արտարություն հայկական ցեղասպանության նահատակներին.
Justice for the Armenian Genocide. نطالب بالعدالة للقضية الأرمنية.
Արտարություն հայոց ցեղասպանության նահատակներում.
Justice. Արդարություն. العدالة. Justicia.
Justice. Rechtvaardigheid. Δικαιοσύνη.
Thank you to the Armenian National Committee of Illinois. I will now introduce my fellow Teen Leadership Board members, Chloe Eimer, Carmel Schreiber, Rachel Goldberg, Victoria Wardy, and Ella McHenry, who will be concluding our hour with the name reading, Remembering Lives That Were Lost to Genocide.
I will be reading the names of my family members who perished in the Holocaust. Wies Wegel, Sabine Emmer, Hannah Emmer, Henrik Emmer, Hirsch Emmer, Leah Emmer, Lipka Emmer, Malka Emmer, Menachem Emmer, Nina Emmer, Mordechai Emmer, Moshe Emmer, Sonia Emmer, Salka Emmer, Tonya Emmer, Zalman Emmer. Thank you, and now Carmel will read names.
I will also be reading names from my family members that perished in the Holocaust. Miriam Berger Drumer, my great-great-grandmother. Shlomo Drumer, my grandfather's uncle. Leah Drumer, my grandfather's aunt. Edith Drumer, my grandfather's cousin. Ava Drumer, my grandfather's cousin. Devorah Drumer, my grandfather's aunt. Rachel Drumer Moses, my grandfather's aunt. Avraham Moses, my grandfather's uncle. Lily Moses, my grandfather's cousin. Ahuva Drumer Hillman, my grandfather's aunt. Max Hillman, my grandfather's uncle. David Cole, my grandfather's cousin. Margit Cole, my grandfather's cousin. Zipporah Cole, my grandfather's cousin. Rachel Jonah, my grandfather's aunt. Golda Jonah, my grandfather's aunt. And Hendel Jonah, my grandfather's uncle. Thank you. Now on to Rachel.
These are the names of family members of my great-grandfather David Goldberg that perished in the Holocaust. Clara Trachtenberg Landesman, 49 years old. Isaac Trachtenberg, 59 years old. Aaron Moses Trachtenberg, 15 years old. Elias Trachtenberg, 11 years old. All perished in the Sobibor death camp on May 21st, 1943. Rosa Buchen Landesman, 35 years old. Isaac Buchen, 14 years old. Edmund Buchen, 11 years old. Manfred Buchen, 7 years old. Arthur Landesman, 31 years old. Muriel Stempel Landesman. Smuel Landesman, 58 years old. Hannah Landesman, 55 years old. Grina Landesman, 30 years old. All perished in the Auschwitz death camp on September 3rd, 1942. May their memory be for a blessing. We will now transition to the name reading app for Together We Remember. Thank you, and I welcome Victoria Wardy.
Lay Rose, perished in the Cambodian genocide. Julie Maknitsky, perished in the Holocaust at the age of 14. Donkik Milana, perished in the Kosovo War. Kagarama Bluefire, perished in the Rwandan genocide at the age of 28. Ahmad al-Masri, perished in the Syrian civil war in 2013. Samjik Ajet, perished in the Bosnian genocide at the age of 28. Mahmoud Hassan al-Jafar, perished in the Syrian civil war in 2012. Mahmoud Ahmad al-Saadi, perished in the Syrian civil war in 2013. Erzbet Oshpitz, perished in the Holocaust at the age of 7. Adem Aslani, perished in the Kosovo War at the age of 70. Awan Welrik, perished in the South Sudan Civil War. Maria Elena Nunez, perished in the Argentine Dirty War. Masoud Khan, perished in the Holocaust in 1941. Ibrahim Amer al-Saleh al-Mahmoud, perished in the Syrian Civil War in 2014. Hussein Abdo Katran, perished in the Syrian Civil War in 2015. Tariq Ibrahim Ma'atuk, perished in the Syrian Civil War in 2012. Thank you. We will now switch to Ella McHenry.
Akchol Lual Deng, perished in the South Sudan Civil War. Ignaz Schoen. Mutemeria Kagabo Josette, perished in the Rwandan genocide at the age of 7. Koren Krikorian, perished in the Armenian Genocide. Muyich Haris, perished in the Bosnian Genocide at the age of 19. Mojkic Ramiz, perished in the Bosnian Genocide at the age of 51. Lati Muller, perished in the Holocaust at the age of 48. Mohammed Awad El-Sad, perished in the Syrian Civil War in 2014. Amun Sharak Al-Zait, perished in the Syrian Civil War in 2014. Haneh Zarkawer, perished in the Holocaust at the age of 3. Ahmed Shawaf al-Zaroud, perished in the Syrian Civil War in 2015. Karmo Hamoud al-Zatur, perished in the Syrian Civil War in 2014. Mayed Karman, perished in the Syrian Civil War in 2014. Salkic Seydalia, perished in the Bosnian Genocide at the age of 29. Ramon de la Cruz Ramirez, perished in the Argentine Dirty War. Latte Frischman, perished in the Holocaust at the age of 4. Thank you, and may I introduce Leah Gray.
Tani Weiss, perished in the Holocaust at the age of 8. Vakim Singh, perished in the Cambodian Genocide. Fatim Sinani, perished in the Kosovo War at the age of 61. Mahmoud Hamzeh Mohammed al-Abdullah, perished in the Syrian Civil War in 2013. Mujik Desvad, perished in the Bosnian Genocide in 1995. Thank you, and now back to Wendy.
Thank you, everybody, for this wonderful experience, and to our Chicago community partners. We're going to see you again next year.